Welcome to the second installment of our podcast on Ginnie Mae's Digital Collateral Program. I am Lynn Chandler, the Digital Collateral Director in the Office of the President for Ginnie Mae. And as many of our listeners may have heard, we are looking forward to reopening our Digital Collateral Program to new applicants this June 20th, 2022. And we wanted to use this podcast to take a look back at the first year of our digital program, which has been in its pilot phase, and talk to some of our current pilot eIssuers about their experience. Today, we have with us representatives from 3 current eIssuers who represent a cross-section of experience and different types of usage in the Ginnie Mae Digital Collateral Program. First up, we have Kyle Simonak, Vice President with Rocket Mortgage, Emily Overton, the Capital Markets Team Lead at Veterans United, and Liz Downing on the Product Strategy Team also at Veterans United. And then we have Peter Wuger, the Assistant Vice President for Co-Issue and eMortgage Operations at Mr. Cooper. Our first question, which I'll start with Peter at Mr. Cooper. Peter, one of the requirements to apply to Ginnie Mae's pilot digital collateral program was that the applicant had some experience with eNotes in the Fannie or Freddie space typically. How long has your company been working with eNotes?
Thank you, Lynn. I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to join this podcast. I'm excited to be part of this event, and I'm looking forward to discussing the exciting topic of eNotes. Mr. Cooper really has been purchasing eNotes via our bulk channel for over 10 years. That said, in the second half of 2018, we completed our MERS e-registry integration as an investor. And at the time, we added eNotes to our loan manufacturing process and started buying eNotes as a correspondent investor and via our co-issue channel.
That's great. Liz, at Veterans United, how long has your company been working with eNotes?
First of all, thank you for having us, Lynn. Emily and I are both really excited to be here and very thankful that we've been able to be part of your pilot program for the last 2 years. At Veterans United, our mission is to enhance the lives of the veterans we serve, which is why we're so excited about the Digital Collateral Program. Veterans have done so much for our country, and so we want using their VA home loan benefit to be easy, and we believe that being part of this pilot program over the last couple years has helped make that possible. We believe closing on a house should be a reason for celebration and not stress. And e-closing helps make that closing process less stressful, faster, and smoother. Borrowers can review and e-sign documents before the appointment, which significantly shortens the time veterans are sitting at the closing table. It also means there's a lower chance of missing something like a signature or a date on a document. And digital collateral is more secure since we're able to track the progress of the documents. And customer feedback shows borrowers who have an e-closing experience rate the closing appointment more positively than those who don't. So we know that this is the direction we should be moving in. These are all the benefits that we've seen go from hopes when we first started exploring e-closing in 2019 to the reality of the way we conduct closings today. We've been able to quickly integrate automating a hybrid e-closing experience, including eNotes. We started working with Fannie Mae in 2020 and began working with you all at Ginnie Mae later that year. And to get where we are today, we've worked with a number of partners to establish full e-mortgage experience. Existing doc custodians and subservicers have transitioned with us. Most importantly, the digital collateral program is more secure, efficient, and convenient, and it makes the borrowing process easier for our veterans. So we're thankful that we've been able to be part of the pilot program.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we've been very excited about the progress in the VA space. It's just really taken off with you and with other VA lenders, and we couldn't be more excited about that benefit to our veterans. Kyle, we all know Rocket is the big name in town. How long have you all been doing eNotes?
Yeah, awesome to talk to you again, Lynn, and thanks for the opportunity. I'd say pretty similar to Peter and his team at Mr. Cooper. We started exploring things late in 2017, got our MERS e-registry stuff all lined up at that time. And then by early 2018, we were very much ramping up. And as Liz and Emily very eloquently said, started being able to offer a much more streamlined experience to our clients in the Fannie Freddie space by summer of 18. We had been at it for a couple of years by the time we had the chance to say yes to your pilot and get involved with your team over at Ginnie. It's been awesome to be able to partner with you and looking forward to more ahead.
That's great. And, I think a big takeaway from what you all are telling me is that Fannie and Freddie have been in this since 2004, but not all of our current players have been in it that long. There's a lot of room to scale this up pretty quickly. And I think that's really exciting for people who are still yet to join us. With that experience in mind, with your experience in eNotes, maybe with Fannie or with Freddie, can you speak to some of the differences you found when applying or building out for the Ginnie Mae digital program, Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing that I'll mention is I think along with some of the folks on the call here, uh, those of us who had a chance to be part of the pilot, I want to emphasize for folks listening, likely some of the things that we experienced have frankly been ironed out. So those early days of all of us partnering together to land on some things around, the custodian and the warehouse processes, frankly, those situations popped up and now we've all resolved them together. So I don't want to make it seem like there's a massive lift here that's a big difference between the Fannie, Freddie, or GSE world and what happens at Ginnie. But beyond the custodian and warehouse wiggles that need to be worked out there, I think the other thing I would say is it could be important for folks to know that they just need to be conscious of their execution in the secondary market. As we sit here today, there are some considerations when you go out to market and pool these loans. But what's been great for us, and I think for the others as well on the call, we've been able to manage through those execution differences very, very well, and really hasn't been a concern for us from like a rate sheet or pricing perspective. So it's something to know, it's something to consider as you're building out the platform. But for us, it really has been smooth sailing. And again, I don't want to understate it. You all at Ginnie have been awesome partners helping with literally any question that we might have to work through together. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate that. We've enjoyed working with you. Emily and Liz, did you want to speak to maybe building out for the Ginnie Mae program specifically?
I think this is a great question to touch on and a very important topic. We noticed a couple differences, but first we wanted to emphasize that Ginnie Mae moving into this space and into this innovation has really been helping spur even more innovation across the mortgage industry, which is really exciting. We've seen innovations such as MERS now being able to store raw videos, concentrated efforts to organize local and state laws surrounding e-closings, and MISMO has done a lot of work too, forming a consensus among stakeholders to smooth out processes. We know our veteran customers count on us to deliver timely, secure results, and unlike other loan products, the VA loan is an earned benefit. Our veterans put their lives on the line to serve our country, so we feel we owe it to them to make using their hard-earned benefits as smooth as possible. And innovation such as this helps us to achieve this goal. The first difference we noticed, Kyle touched on a little bit. I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty a little bit just to say what the difference was for the movement of the eNote within the e-registry. So for example, with the GSEs, we transfer control and location of the eNote directly to them, while with Ginnie Mae, we need to see the issuer in the control field, the e-custodian in the location field, and Ginnie Mae in the secured party field. And while initially this difference may have had some warehouse lenders reluctant to enter the space, we've seen more and more become really comfortable here. The only other difference that really might have an effect that isn't large was that our eNotes and wet notes can't be combined in the same pool, but with the GSEs, we're able to put them in the same commitments. But overall, the positive evolution we've seen with the program and throughout the process is really encouraging, and it makes the whole process smoother for our veterans.
Thank you so much, Liz. The warehouse lending issue is something that I think we've all had a challenge with. I was excited to have a conversation with a number of warehouse lenders last summer, and it has moved that quickly in terms of getting them comfortable. I was taking calls and answering questions, only that long ago. And now we've seen so many of them enter the space and get comfortable in that space. So that's really been a great development. Peter, did you have any thoughts on this question?
To the question of our experience in setting this up and with respect to differences, honestly, from an investor standpoint, there were not a whole lot of differences. Specifically, since we had the benefit of 2 years experience purchasing eNotes via our B2B channels, we found the Ginnie Mae digital program to be very much in line with our existing process. We already had our manufacturing and reporting tools in place. We were able to leverage our existing relationships between our operations teams, our eVault provider, and our custodians such that implementation approval went very smoothly. In terms of differences, like Kyle and Liz have mentioned, there was a difference in the eVault delivery process. From Mr. Cooper's standpoint, this was easily implemented. We did see some pushback from some of the warehouse lenders, but I believe this has been resolved. And in terms of pooling, in terms of eNotes versus wet notes, our capital markets team was able to manage this process rather easily.
That's fantastic. I love how quickly we were able to get everyone following on board. I've still, to this day, I've heard a little bit of people are getting guidance from their warehouse lenders. Sometimes they have more than one lender, and so they have different processes. And so my only note to maybe some applicants or prospective applicants there would be, don't let them entirely guide the process. Make sure you have a strong internal process and you're working with your warehouse lender, but not necessarily letting them entirely drive the process, because I've seen some internal confusion result. But let's get back to the onboarding for everyone. When we first onboarded everyone, as you know, there's conditional approval if you meet the eligibility requirements in the Ginnie Mae e-guide. But then we had to do some test transactions and get everyone started out with securitization. How did that onboarding process go for you, Emily and Liz?
Thanks, Lynn. At VU, our goal is to always put our veterans first by helping them use their hard-earned VA home loan benefit. It was clear throughout the onboarding process that your team felt the same way. So we know that your team wanted to be the best partner for everyone involved. And last year, we've seen 440,000 veterans use their VA home loan benefit to purchase a home. And through its inception, the VA has done more than 25 million loans. We're so excited that this program will allow the VA home loan process to be faster, more secure, and an overall smoother experience. Overall, for us, the onboarding process was very smooth, and Ginnie Mae was very responsive and easy to work with. Initially, we did joint testing with your team, one of our warehouse lenders, our doc custodian, and a subservicer. After successful testing, we took our time, we did our due diligence for a few months, and wanted to make sure all parties understood the processes and the resulting workflows. Ultimately, we found it to be a really smooth process that is now helping us deliver better results to our veteran borrowers. We're excited about it, continuing to prove the new e-guide changes that are coming, and the overall innovation in the industry that Ginnie Mae is encouraging just by having this program.
Thank you. Well, we're excited too, and I'm glad that enthusiasm came through. Kyle, how was onboarding for Rocket?
In your intro question to us here, one of the things you talked through is that there was some testing that we wanted to make sure that got done before we onboarded. And all I can say is your team's desire to do that very much lines up with the way that we like to do things. If you think about the story as Emily laid out there about this being such a smooth transaction, especially in that space for our veterans, testing upfront to ensure that things are going to go incredibly smoothly. While it was obviously important as the platform was initially getting built out for the Fannie Freddie side of the business, really just took on a bit of a heightened level of exposure and focus, if you will. So your team, again, great partners there. I think, frankly, the upfront testing is important and what should happen every time. So we were big advocates of that happening here in this instance. And again, overall, a very, very smooth process.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Peter?
Yeah, from Mr. Cooper's standpoint, the testing and the initial setup was pretty seamless. We did have a couple minor issues, but these were more technical in nature and setup related than the digital collateral guide related. So, I thought our process went very smoothly. Like Rocket and Veterans United, we partnered with our eVault as well as our custodian together with Ginnie Mae. And again, we thought our process went pretty smoothly. I think we were able to identify any and all issues. And again, I can't say enough about the partnership. And since implementation, we've had really virtually zero issues. And all of the loans that we've purchased through our program, through the Ginnie Mae space, has been seamless. So in addition, Mr. Cooper, as part of our seller setup process, we also do testing. So what you all did as part of the initial setup back in 2020 falls right in line with our own process for setting up sellers. So, we continue to test to this day with new sellers. I believe the process was very seamless.
That's great to hear. And you've anticipated my next question. I like the answer. Zero issues. But of course, that's not always the case. As we work on our pilot program, exactly the reason we are in the pilot status was to encounter and anticipate some of these issues. If we had not contemplated the issues in our original digital collateral guide, do you feel that any issues that arose were addressed and have worked with your internal processes to improve your Ginnie Mae digital experience? I should note some of the issues may still be addressed by our recent e-guide update, which was released this past Monday. Anything on that, Peter? Or we're sticking with zero issues?
Well, Again, any of the issues that we had were really more technical in nature in terms of setup. They weren't really program related. So we were very happy with the implementation. Now, we have experienced a couple things and we have seen some opportunities to grow the business based on our experience with the pilot. And first, I think we'd like to see greater investor adoption of the Ginnie Mae program, and for that matter, eNotes in general. One of the things we hear from our correspondent sellers is that they want to see more investors purchasing eNotes so that they can receive more pricing quotes. And Mr. Cooper is definitely open to that. We would like to see more investors out there because we are looking to grow this market and this opportunity. The other thing that we've seen is where, some of our correspondent sellers are not always aware that they don't need to be Ginnie Mae approved eIssuers to sell loans to investors like Mr. Cooper who are eIssuer approved. Just wanted to kind of share that because I've had a number of conversations with correspondent sellers who are sometimes a little skeptical when I tell them, hey, you don't have to be eIssuer approved with Ginnie Mae to sell to Mr. Cooper. So what I do is I take your email and I forward it over to them and show them, hey, this is from Ginnie Mae. Yes, this is in fact correct. You do not need to be Ginnie Mae approved in order to sell to Mr. Cooper.
That's fantastic guidance. Yeah, we are excited to grow the program. And of course, one of the things I love about eNotes is that everyone, and I've had this conversation with Kyle before as well, everyone is really just interested in eNote adoption, full stop. Of course, we want to grow our own businesses specific to the companies we work for, but people are just enthusiastic about the product as a whole. And I love that. And absolutely, definitely share my guidance with those correspondents because, as you said, the more people we get into the space, the better liquidity we're going to see and the better execution we're going to get for everyone. Right, Kyle?
So right, Lynn and Peter. Yeah, I mean, said it as well or better than I could have, but we would love more folks to be involved on the investor side. I just had a chance to speak with a whole range of investors in New York for the MBA secondary conference that happened in May here. A lot of folks asking about it, but still clearly some opportunity there for more folks to adopt. Obviously, both in the Ginnie space, but also really wider across the mortgage ecosystem. There's a need, and I think a business case for folks to want to do it. We just need to get those folks off the sidelines. Obviously, there has certainly been no shortage of things happening in the industry the last couple of years competing for attention. So outside of that, in terms of any other issues, I think issues is a bit of a strong word. Our implementation challenges also were largely technical or sort of known things. I think we all knew in the early going, there are some differences in the custody and warehouse space that had to be worked through. That was just the reality. And so that was just work that needed to be done together. Beyond that, the last thing I would say is actually some things that are addressed by your recent digital collateral guide update. Things like mods on an eNote. I don't think that it was a surprise that we would need to eventually be considering that, but certainly on day one, you make sure you can walk before you run. So happy to see that guidance has been updated. I think we all knew that, and I'm saying, I don't know, Lynn, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think folks at Ginnie as well knew that was something that we'd have to tackle together. And I think it's just great that you've come back to the industry and already made those updates and made it clear that we can grow the program quickly and expand it however we have to make this work for all of our clients.
That's great. Veterans United, did you all experience any issues that hopefully we've addressed?
Thanks, Lynn. We really didn't encounter any major issues with the guide. We found that Ginnie Mae and your team was very helpful in clarifying any questions that we did have. And as with any test program, we know there's always areas where we can all strengthen our processes. We've already seen your team taking steps to strengthen the program, even this early in the game, and we're excited to see the recent revisions to the e-guide, especially the acceptance of eNotes that can be executed using a power of attorney, and that the power of attorney can also be remote notarized. Remote notarized power of attorneys can significantly improve the process for a lot of deployed service members or even National Guard members who get called up for state emergencies with no notice. Emergencies and deployments rarely happen at a time that's convenient, and you guys are helping make sure our service members aren't accidentally put at a disadvantage because they're serving our country. Having said that, the only other thing that we'd like to see in the future would be the ability to put our eNotes into the same pools as our wet notes. But again, it's not huge. No other major issues, and we really appreciate that we've been able to be a part of the program, and we're looking forward to continuing to work together to enhance the experience for our veterans.
I'm going to have to tease Kyle a little bit because that he has that same conversation with me once a month. That we all really would like to commingle our paper and our eNotes. I do hear that from our eIssuers, and I absolutely have that as one of my top goals. The first step in getting to that goal is reopening the program so that we have more buyers in our program and more participants to help with the liquidity. And then the second step, of course, is our systems modernization that I know you all are aware of with SFPDM. So we are absolutely 100% getting to the goal of commingling.
Lynn at Rocket, we love to say feedback is a gift. So I will take your feedback. Thank you.
All right. Next question. As you all have begun securitizing with Ginnie Mae, are there any particular benefits you're seeing specific to the Ginnie Mae program, which you may not have noticed with your other eNote work, such as being able to assist more veterans or anything like that? Liz and Emily?
We are definitely seeing improvements. Already, efficiency and security provided through the program helps us deliver results with integrity for our veteran borrowers. Just being able to sign documents while overseas is a huge positive change for them. And the eClose model is safer, more secure, and protects us all from errors. The benefits we see are fewer documents to sign means less time spent at the closing table for borrowers. The document delivery in advance of closing means that they have time to review key information and ask questions. And because of that, there's a smaller chance of missing documents at the closing table. And that results in faster funding document checks and less waiting for our veterans at the closing table. And finally, the security around the note itself and being able to track its movement is also an improvement. Overall, the in-person closing experience is better because of the digital collateral program, and it's helped improve our internal processes too. In the past 8 months, we have seen faster turn times from close to purchase for eNote pools by several days, and we see the benefits through customer feedback. They consistently rate e-closings higher compared to full wet sign and hybrid closings. And ultimately, anything that makes this process more efficient will give us as a company more time to help more veterans become homeowners. So by not making perfect the enemy of great and launching this program and adapting along the way, Lynn, you all at Ginnie Mae have improved a good process. By being more efficient and more user-friendly, we're able to serve service members around the world.
That's fantastic. We're so glad you all are having a good experience. Peter, how about you?
From an investor standpoint, we look at eNotes a little bit differently because we receive the eNotes from our correspondent sellers. And the biggest lift that we're seeing is the fact that by offering eClose across the spectrum, Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie, sellers are basically able to have one manufacturing for eNotes, resulting in greater efficiency for the seller. And what it does is it allows them basically to sell the full spectrum of eNotes with all the benefits that Liz and Emily have mentioned, specifically the faster turn times, the borrower experience, the ability to do things remotely. And all of these things we feel really move the needle with respect to eNote adoption. So by having Ginnie Mae as part of that menu of possible products, we feel like the expansion of this program is really critical to the future adoption of eNotes across the industry.
That's great. Kyle, how about you?
Certainly echo what Emily and Liz said at Veterans United and also what Peter had talked about, although he has certainly a unique perspective that here at Rocket Mortgage, we don't quite share. We don't do the correspondent business quite the way that him and his team do. One more thing I'd highlight maybe is, a growing segment of the book of business that flows into Ginnie Mae bonds is folks that are just at the start of their housing journey. And increasingly, those are also folks who have done everything in their lives in all other ways, more or less 100% completely digitally. And so being able to offer those folks a seamless experience that feels like other modern financial transactions has been a big benefit. It's been awesome to be able to offer what feels like just the way business should be done to a very, very large portion of our overall portfolios. Ginnie getting into the eNote space, continuing to expand and reformat the pilot and moving towards a fully realized production experience is just an awesome story about being able to help as many folks as possible and really meet them where they are and just make the process easier and simpler and a little less intimidating for folks as maybe they're starting out on that housing journey. So that's been another nice benefit we've seen as well.
That's a really great perspective, Kyle. I appreciate that. And I can't thank all of you enough. That's all the questions I had for today. And I'm so glad that you could all join us on our podcast. Ginnie Mae is really lucky to have had such a wonderful pilot experience with all of you. And I'm sure your insights will give a lot of good thoughts to our future participants that will join us very shortly. Thank you very much.